My next guest has got a huge fight coming up here against Raufeon Stots at Bellator 253 on November 19th. It is Keith Lee with his beautiful daughter. Keith, how's it going?
It's a blessing to be here. It's a blessing to be swapping energy with you and be talking to you again. I love talking to you, and I love just had an opportunity to speak about an amazing fight that's coming up.
Yeah, no, thank you for the time, man. We've been doing these forever. It feels like we talk about this every interview, but it's been so cool to watch your journey and what a huge fight this is. But first, we got to talk about the most important thing, man. You're a dad now. How's that been?
It's amazing. I haven't been able to really have the time to sit and bond with her as much as I want because I'm in the middle of camp. But I take this, like, even when I'm doing interviews or even when I have any time at home to sit down, I take time like this and I bond with her. I look in her eyes and I'm grateful and I'm appreciative.
How's Uncle Kevin feeling about everything?
He's excited. This is the first kid in my entire generation. The youngest kid before her is 20 years old. It's my little brother. So it's just a breath of fresh air to have a baby and a family for the first time.
Well, and obviously coming into fatherhood with a big win in your last fight, that decision victory over Vinicius Zaney. I know you would have liked the finish, but you must have been pretty happy with that performance. You looked really good in that one.
Yeah, I was extremely happy with the performance just because I went out there and I performed. And I went out there and I was myself. You know me, that's what I'm always most excited about. He was a tough guy. He was a very tough opponent. But Bellator has never showed me favors. Anybody I've ever fought for has never showed me favors. So I never expected at this point. I just know that they're going to give me guys that I can go in there and perform against.
And this is a huge fight. I mean, when we were sort of talking about the matchup and everything sort of offline, this was not a fight I expected so soon. But hey, the bantamweight division is one of the deepest in Bellator, and you're fighting a killer in Raufeon Stots. When did this come on your radar? Because I know you guys both do have the same manager.
Yeah. So they offered me to fight 2 weeks ago, like a week. I would say a week and a half ago. They offered me to fight. He was supposed to fight Josh Hill. Josh Hill got pulled for injury. I'm not really sure what happened to him. I wish him the best, but he got pulled for injury. And they gave me the opportunity. God was telling me this was the time to go for it, and I've heard this narrative push that it is a big fight, it's really soon. But I feel like I have every tools to be victorious, and I have every tool that I possibly need to go out there and really have a dominant performance. So I don't think it's too soon. I don't think it's too early. I feel like if those tools wasn't sharpened, then I would agree with you. But the fact that I feel like I had every tool possible to beat this guy, I feel like this is the perfect timing. Yeah, it definitely was a little early for me. I wasn't preparing for him. I didn't even think about it. But when an opportunity arose, I feel like it was the perfect time to take it.
No, and kudos to you, man, because I know a lot of fighters that probably wouldn't want to fight Raufeon Stots. He's got a great, obviously great wrestling, great record. I think his last loss was actually Merab Dvalishvili, who's just been lighting it up in the UFC right now. So yeah, I mean, it's a very important fight. I know this might be kind of a long stretch here, but I know Kevin, your brother, Kevin Lee, did train a little bit at Raufeon, I think a few years ago. Did he ever work with Raufeon? Did he give you any insight into him?
Yeah, he moved with him a little bit. He told me when the fight was first offered, that is definitely a fight that is winnable. He told me that the kid's going to be tough. I knew that already going in. You don't become 14-1 just by luck or by a miracle. I know the fight's going to be tough, but I also know that everything that he does is something that I do as well. He's a good wrestler. I'm a good wrestler. He's decent on his feet. I feel like I do have the stand-up advantage. I feel like I have the scrambling advantage. I think I'm more tenacious than he is. I feel like I'm gonna go out there and I'm going to get after it. And as always, this fight is all about myself, and it's all about me going out there and perform. And like I said, Kevin did tell me that he's good. He's definitely good, but it's definitely a winnable fight.
Very cool. What about training camp? Who have you got to work with ahead of this fight?
So I use Bubba Jenkins a lot for this camp. Bubba Jenkins was a really big staple in this camp. Bubba Jenkins, I moved around a lot with Aljamain Sterling, with a lot of guys like Shem Couture's, like a lot of guys like Asker, Magomed, Tagir, a lot of really good high-level UFC guys. Extremes is always, and Vegas in general is always the home of the grappler. So it was never a shortage of grapplers that I needed for this camp. So I had a lot of good looks.
And speaking of bantamweights, I don't know how much you've trained with him or if you've trained with him at all, but how about Gustavo Lopez getting that quick win last weekend?
He looked amazing. I haven't trained with him lately, but I've been training with Gustavo since I was an amateur. Gustavo was one of the guys that I really came up with training like three or four times a week when Follis was alive. Like we trained together a lot. I know Gustavo really well, and he looked amazing. And Burchek's I wouldn't call Burchek a friend, but Burchek's a guy that I know I've moved around a little bit with. I've seen him in the gym. It's unfortunate that somebody had to lose that fight, but I think Gustavo looked amazing in the process.
How about the weight cut? Because this is actually going to be at 35. I think your last fight was at a catch weight. I was trying to remember because I know initially when you were supposed to fight your previous opponent, I think they was supposed to be a catch weight then, and then so you're actually going to have to make 35 this time. How's everything going?
So the catch weight was at 40, but this time it's at 35. It's an extra 4 pounds. I think it's definitely doable. When they called me, I wasn't fully training, but I'm never just sitting on the couch. I'm always running. I'm always doing something to keep my cardio intact. So when they called me, I wasn't in training camp by any means, but I definitely wasn't completely out of shape. So I think the weight shouldn't be that big of a problem. It should be the problem that it always is. It's just something I gotta overcome and really just be on top of.
How do you balance your schedule with fatherhood, with training and all that? Because I know when my wife was pregnant or when my wife gave birth to our son, I would get to sleep at night and I'd sort of take over during the day or early morning and late at night. Do you guys work out a schedule like that, or are you up at night with your daughter?
In reality, I would wake up at like 9 and I'll get back home at like 3 or 4. But my wife is holding it down really, really solidly when it comes to taking care of her. She's staying at home right now, so whenever I have to go to training, like I just did, I'll pass the baton and I'll give her over to my wife. Just really going through the flow of being a new parent and going through the flow of dealing with something that I've never dealt before. But I'm always a strong believer in God, and I feel like everything that He has planned in store for me is going the way it's supposed to.
Excellent. Who's going to be in your corner for this fight?
Kevin. So it's just going to be Kevin. Dewey is out for Carlos Takam. Has a big fight coming up. So Dewey's probably going to be corner him, so it's just going to be Kevin.
How's this fight playing out on November 19th? You feel like you're going to get your hand raised, but how do you envision it playing out?
So I feel like this fight is going to be, I wouldn't even say a coming out party. I just feel like this fight is going to be a showcase of all skills. I really see myself being very skillful and being very into the moment and into the zone, and just having a night that will be into the history books for a long time, and a night that a lot of people are going to look back on and say, okay, that's the night that made people not want to fight him, or that's the night that made people realize that he's actually here. I feel like win, lose, or draw, I'm going to go out there and we really going to have an amazing fight, and it's going to be one that's going to take over the card. When you speak about this card, it's not going to be the main event, or even though I think it's going to be a great main event, but when you speak about this card, it's not going to be the rest of the people on the card. It's going to be, did you see Keith and Raufeon fight? Like, did you see the performance that Keith had? I think that's going to be the narrative of this entire card, and I'm just excited to go out there and get it done.
I know everything's kind of happened quickly this year. I mean, you got married, you've had, your dad, you had the last fight, and then you got this one, kind of close together. Have you been able to sort of soak in what a win would mean here? Because I think if you beat Stots, that's got to put you in the contender spot, because there's a lot of killers right now in that division. And, with Archuleta as the new champ, I think, this would definitely put you up there in that contender spot. Is this something you've thought of?
Of course, it's a subconscious thought more, if anything. It's a thought in the back of my head. I know the opportunities that can come from it. I knew the opportunities that can come from my last fight, and the fact that beating a guy like Vinicius Zanny put me in an opportunity in a conversation to be called for a backup spot with Raufeon and Josh. Mm-hmm. I would say I'm definitely honored to even be in a position where people are acknowledging my skill set, but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the pressure that this fight has on it. I feel like pressure is fake, and pressure is built within insecurities. And every fight is the same for me. I just go out there and I perform. And I know that no matter what happens in this fight, or what happens in my last fight, what happens in my next fight, it's all about the doors that God will open for me. And I don't know what doors those are. I don't think anybody knows. We just got to go and be along for the ride. And I think that any door that opens is going to be a blessing for me.
Before we go, I got to bring this up. Your brother's tattoo. It made the rounds on social media. He did that video. He didn't even say anything. He just posted the video, which I thought was cool. Did you know he was doing this? That's why I want to start there first.
Absolutely, yeah. He had I wouldn't even say a family meeting. He just had a family consultant where he told everybody what he's about to do. So it's a samurai helmet. A lot of people don't really get the concept yet. He still has to finish it. It's going to come all the way down to the front of his neck, and then all the way to the back, to where you can see the flaps of an old ancient samurai helmet. It's kind of the same principle but that my coach Julie Cooper has. He has a full arm sleeve of nothing but the art of war, and a lot of prolific God of War type of material. And if you notice, when he walks out with anybody, he always has his right sleeve up, and it's to signify that it's time to go to battle. And I think that was the whole concept behind it. So every time he shaves his head, and he reveals his samurai helmet, it's time to go to battle. I think he'll only shave his head during fight time or during like fight camp, but it's just to signify that it's time to go to battle.
Interesting. You're probably not getting any tattoos anytime soon, or you see that and you're like, maybe I want to do something like that?
I actually just got both my hands done. I got my daughter's name on my fingers, and I got another one added on my. I would never touch the back of my head if that was the question.
Right. Yeah.
It never that extreme or that like eye catching. I do a lot of things that are very subtle. Kevin completely polar opposite of me, personality wise, especially when it comes to ideals and things that ways of expressing itself for sure. I won't touch the back of my head if that was the question.
Awesome. Keith, really appreciate the time, man, as always. It's always been great catching up with you. Huge fight, like I said, Bellator 253. Don't want to miss it. November 19th. Anyone you want to thank, any sponsors, any social media, I'll give you the last word.
I just want to give a shout out to the Cold as Water. They've been a sponsor for me during this camp. Brian Boxing has been a big sponsor. They sent me some gloves. Shout out to my TikTok, Keith_Lee125. And like I said, shout out to you. I'll always come to you with the inside scoop. And I feel like the next time we talk is going to be a big conversation. And it's going to be a conversation that a lot of people are going to watch.